You ever wonder how the world's most famous faces got their start? The icons we know today, whether they're actors, athletes, or even presidents, often have some strange and unexpected chapters in their early lives. And no, we're not talking about their family upbringing or high school drama, but about something a bit more postal. Yeah, we're talking about the United States Postal Service, the same company that you probably curse out every time your Amazon package gets delayed. Turns out some of the world's biggest stars once worked for the very institution we love to complain about. So buckle up, because this isn't your typical Hollywood rags to riches story. Let's kick things off with the man, the myth, the mouse himself, Walt Disney. A name that's practically synonymous with childhood dreams. Before he was inventing Mickey Mouse and turning Orlando into a theme park paradise, Walt was just a kid in Chicago trying to make some pocket money. And how did he do that? By taking a job as a substitute mail carrier in 1918. That's right. While still in high school, Walt was out there delivering letters to the fine people of Chicago, building the discipline and work ethic that would one day help him create an empire.
This is the stage for Act 1 of the Carousel Theater of Progress. Stages for the other acts are being assembled at other places in the studio for a complete audio-animatronic dress rehearsal.
His time at USPS was short-lived, but I can't help but think, imagine being one of those first customers receiving mail from Walt Disney. This guy had something about him. I know they thought, but spoiler, he definitely did. Now, fast forward to one of the most awkward legends of our time, Steve Carell.
So why don't you just leave?
I would like to stay. This pertains to me.
I would like you to leave. Why don't you go outside and take a shot of insulin and have a nap, okay?
Why do you always assume I have diabetes?
You have a glass of apple juice and tell me that you don't have diabetes, okay? All right. See? Just the noise you made when you stood up. I could...
Yes, before Michael Scott became the king of cringe and the ruler of The Office, Steve Carell was, well, delivering actual letters. After college, he took a job as a mail carrier in Littleton, Massachusetts. According to Carell himself, he was slow, very slow. So much that the locals began complaining about how late their mail was.
Yes, and I was what was called a rural mail carrier. Rural? Rural. Mm-hmm. So that meant I had to use my own car, and I had a Toyota Corona that I had to, and you deliver out the right side, so I had to drive with my left hand and my left foot on the accelerator and brake and throw the mail out the window this way.
Wow.
So.
Were you good?
No, I was a bad mail carrier.
I mean, if there was an award for least efficient mailman, Steve would have probably won it. But here's the thing, just like Michael Scott, Steve Carell found a way to make awkward work for him. That lack of efficiency at the USPS was a training ground for his comedic timing, which would later dominate TV screens across the globe. That's a good way to think about it. So maybe next time your mail is a little late, just think somewhere Steve Carell is probably just trying to make you laugh. Now, we've got to talk about Joe Biden because, you know, the man's had a career that spanned pretty much everything from delivering mail to delivering the State of the Union.
A day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. Through a crucible for the ages, America has been tested anew.
And actually, I think he was more of a mail sorter. Back in the 1960s, while attending the University of Delaware, Joe Biden took a job as a mail clerk while also playing football. Think about it. The same guy who would one day command the Oval Office was once organizing and sorting letters. I can't imagine him as a football player though, but the guy worked hard, even back then doing what he had to do to pay his bills and support his education. So while his time in this field was also short, it's clear that Joe's dedication to hustling, whether it was sorting the mail or delivering on campaign promises, was ingrained from day one. And then there's Sylvester Stallone, the guy who gave us Rocky Balboa. The ultimate underdog. Well, guess what? Stallone was once delivering mail in New York City in 1969, working as a mail sorter while chasing his acting dream. I imagine him sorting through letters thinking, this isn't the life I signed up for. But hey, that's the one thing about Stallone. He never quit. He worked through the grind, took on odd jobs to stay afloat, and bam.
My days are numbered.
That's not true at all.
Well, feeling really good. Show's going good. Career's going good. Family's great.
Just a few years later, he was knocking out the role of a lifetime in Rocky. The moral of this story? If Sylvester Stallone can punch his way out of the mailroom, so can you. Oh, and please, if you are enjoying this presentation, like this video and check out the merch store, especially if you are a city carrier. Also carriers, check out BMG Money. If you need money today, the link is in the show notes. Thank you. Now, let's throw in a twist. William Faulkner, the Southern Gothic legend who gave us the sound and the fury, and As I Lay Dying. Before all that, Faulkner worked as a postmaster in the 1920s after dropping out of the University of Mississippi. Shout out to Mississippi. I'm sure Faulkner's inner monologue during this time at USPS was something along the lines of, I can't believe I'm stuck doing this when I should be writing about the tragedy of the human condition. But hey, sometimes you gotta punch the clock before you punch out the world's most celebrated literature. Faulkner would open and close the office whenever he felt like it. He would read other people's magazines. He would throw out any mail he thought was unimportant. He would play cards with his friends or write in the back while patrons waited out front. The customers, y'all. That's hilarious. Okay, now, then there's Bob Dylan, the voice of a generation. But before he was strumming guitars and writing protest songs that made us question the establishment, Dylan was working as a mail clerk in New York City as well in the early 60s. At the time, he was just another kid trying to find his voice in the bustling folk music scene. He probably wasn't delivering anything world-changing at the time, but it didn't take long for him to find the most important delivery of his lifetime, his first album, and even mentioning his job in a song called Up to Me, saying,
"The only decent thing I did when I worked as a postal clerk was to haul your picture down off the wall near the cage where I used to work."
That's a classic. And of course, Sherman Hemsley, the man that made a career out of making us laugh on The Jeffersons.
You are descended from African royalty.
Royalty? Oh, but that doesn't mean anything to George, Mr. Bentley. You see, he doesn't care about his ancestors. Isn't that right, George?
King George.
George Jefferson, as we know him, was working as a mail clerk in Philadelphia while studying to be an actor at night when he made it home. There's not a lot of information about his journey with the Postal Service, but I can assume that he was just another guy hustling through odd jobs to support himself while he dreamed of the big screen. Yeah, mail carriers have a way of becoming superstars, don't they? Now, Christopher Walken. You've gotta love this man, y'all. I mean, before his now legendary acting career, he worked for the USPS as a mail clerk. I'm sure even some of the other clerks were like, who is this guy? And why does everything he says sound so intense? I wouldn't be surprised if Christopher Walken sold your dad some stamps and left you thinking, was that a threat or a compliment? I'm not sure, but I'll take it. Let's not leave out Danny Glover. You know, the Lethal Weapon guy. Before his Hollywood career took off, Glover was delivering mail in the early 1960s.
My mom and dad worked for the Postal Service for most of their working lives. My sister was a postal clerk. My brother, a letter carrier. I even worked at the post office during Christmas breaks as a teenager.
He was a part of a family of postal workers, including his mom and dad. And while his peers were studying and playing outside during the holidays, Glover was hustling to make his own money. Eventually, his dedication and work ethic led him to breakthrough roles in both drama and action films. So next time you see Danny Glover, just remember, he probably delivered your father's Christmas gifts back in the day. And finally, we get to Morgan Freeman. The man with the voice that could make anything sound profound.
You always were funny, Bruce. Just like your father. He didn't mind rolling up his sleeves either, son. People underestimate the benefit of good old manual labor. It's freedom in it. Some of the happiest people in the world go home smelling to high heavens at the end of the day.
He's been old practically all of my life. But before becoming one of Hollywood's greatest actors, Morgan Freeman worked as a mail carrier in the 1950s in San Francisco. Imagine being one of those early customers receiving a package from Morgan Freeman. I'd probably open that box like, this is a sign. My life is about to change.
Did you at one time work for the post office?
Yes.
Where did you work for the post office?
San Francisco.
That seems like the worst place to deliver mail.
Any place is the worst place to deliver.
Were you a mail carrier?
I was a mail carrier. I was a substitute mail carrier. That's the worst kind of mail carrier you can be.
Why is that worse?
Because you don't know the route.
Right.
You know, you go, the mail carrier takes off, he's gone for a week or a day or whatever, and then you take his route and you don't know anything about it. And a lot of mailboxes you can't find. But you better deliver the mail.
He played God in one of the Bruce Almighty movies, right? So there you have it. From Walt Disney to Morgan Freeman. It turns out that the post office has played a part in some of the most iconic careers in history. Makes you wonder, what if the next big star is out there right now sorting through your mail? Maybe next time your package is late, you'll think, well, the next president or movie legend might just be the one bringing it to me. You never know. The USPS has a funny way of delivering more than just letters, don't you think? Thank you guys for exploring this journey with me. I love you all. This is Express Mail. I'm signing out. Don't forget to check out the merch store. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.